Like I said, every pretty much spring, they have certain sections where it has steps and you can walk right into it. I think I failed to mention that the water is 70 degrees like year round. It is really cold, really cold. This was about 7 in the morning. I got up really early before anyone else got there. That is deceiving. Honestly, that looks like 2 feet of water. That honestly, that where all that rock brown is, that's maybe 4 feet. And that blue, light blue in the middle, that's about 20 feet deep. 20 feet deep. And water, actually, in that Genie Springs, about 30 million gallons of water get poured out of that every day. All of that water, you can drink it. Like, we dipped our head under, and we just took a big gulp, and it was amazing. Look at this one. This one is just a big crack where all this water, it's another spring. I think this one's called the Devil's Ear. I don't know, it's a weird name. But that, I think it goes down 40 feet all the way down in that crack. And the rest of that crack is like maybe, outside of it, I think it's 4 feet maybe. I was up to my neck. Like, that water was amazing. You saw how clear that was? You could turn the lights back up. Thanks, Rob. Like, that was awesome. One, it was really cold. And you know how like sometimes you get in cold water and you adjust and it gets better? And there was no adjusting. It stayed cold the whole time. Even we would swim for like over an hour and it was still cold. And so it was a lot of fun. I recommend that if you've never done that before, you're not going to regret it. It's really cool to be able to spend it. We actually were thinking about making maybe a day next year in the summer where you can make it a church thing and I'll go out there for like the day or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But in the middle of that first spring, okay, remember that it was kind of like you saw a lot of brown and then this big blue in the middle? That was the big spring. That was Genie Spring. And in that big blue, I tried to get a better angle, but it was hard. And so where it was kind of like, it looked like what was it called? Like a moon, right? And so when you went inside and when you would look where that top brown was, it was this big cave, like a big hole. People would snorkel under there, and there's a bunch of caves that kind of go down, and people do that all the time. And I was just standing there, just looking at this hole, and it was pretty cool, And I was watching it, and that's when, just floating there, looking at my snorkels, that actually I felt, and I heard God speaking to my heart, and all He said was, "Can you see now? Can you see now?" And then this was like this weird, like even though I was cold, like I kind of had this little rush of like warm inside because, especially when I hear God like that and He's trying to show me something, like I don't know, it's just really cool. It kind of exhilarating. And so I'm seeing this and that's all I hear. Maybe I think I heard just once and that was enough. Can you see now? Do you understand? And I had sparked something and I remember, man, when I got to get home, I got to look this up. And I remember that there's Bible verses that talk about God being a spring. You guys know does anyone not know how a spring works? Like how it's actually, why all that? Because that big spring, I told you, 30 million gallons of water comes out every day. And the way it works is, especially here in Florida, we don't have any mountains or anything like that. But when it rains, the water actually goes through porous ground, like things like sand or dirt and like gravel. It goes all the way through. It gets soaked up. You guys have seen the ground soak up water. And it'll get to a point that it gets that hard rock that it can't go through anymore. And from there, gravity kind of works and it starts to pull it down and it kind of, there's these caves that are created, especially in Florida. I was surprised how many springs we have. And then at certain points, there's these openings. There's these cracks or these opening, it's open in the ground that's where the water gushes out and it's constant. I actually had filmed somebody, it was in the morning, I was just walking around, it was really nice, and in one of the springs, somebody was like taking a shower, all lathering up, these two guys, big beer bellies, and just, lathering up there, and at first I thought, oh, that's gross, I was just swimming, I think that's the river where I drank that water, that was pretty nasty, but then I remembered, I was like, oh, but the spring, because there's always water coming out, it always pushes it out, that pushes all that junk out, and it dumps it into the river, and from there, it either goes to wherever, either back into the ground or into the ocean. And so that water is always pushing that stuff out. And then I remembered, like I said, that there are Bible verses that talk about that God is a spring. In Jeremiah, there's 2:13, 7:13 that literally say God is the spring of living water, And there's a couple verses here in Isaiah. It says, with joy, you will draw from the wells of salvation. That's what that living water is. And God was showing me all this when I was looking at it. Just like I said, I got to drink that. That water was amazing, And at first, you pick it up. There's no particles. There's nothing in it. There's no dirt. And just drinking it felt awesome. Crisp. It was cold. It actually had this really awesome smell to it too. Like it was so clean. Like I've never smelled anything like that before in my life. The smell that was coming from that water was so clean. It was awesome. Felt really good. And so here we're talking about a different kind of water where this is a well of salvation. That's living water. This is the type of water that God offers us. It's him that gives us life. Not just here on earth, it gives us eternal life, true life, life that we were meant for. It says, with joy, you're going to draw from this water. There's another one here. Revelations 22:17. Whoever is thirsty, let him come. This is Jesus talking about it in Revelation. He says, whoever's thirsty, let him come. Whoever wishes, let him take the free gift of the water of life. And that's cool. Like I never saw salvation like that as water, and how Jesus said, hey, it's free. You know, most ideologies or religions that you hear about, I think the majority of them, or for all of them, all focus on your works. Like the way you live, you got to live a good life to be able to get into heaven and earn that stuff. But in the Bible, over and over again, it says that our works are nothing. It doesn't matter. We can't earn our salvation. It's a free gift. Our works, us living a good life, that should be a result of, man, this God did this awesome thing for me, and now this is what I want to do for him. It's a response to him, for what he's done for us. We don't earn our salvation through our good works, but it reflects what God has done in our life. And so that's awesome. It's free. The water is free. The water of life is free. Actually, one more, let me back it up. There was one thing about that. If you guys ever heard of this word atonement, that atonement it's in the Bible, and it's just a theological term, but pretty much it means this reconciliation between God and man, like this connecting, bringing back together. Something was broken and it was brought back. That's what the atonement was. That's what Jesus did on the cross for us. He offered, now we have access to this free water where we can be brought back to God, because our lives of sin have broken us apart from him, but his love and his, what he did on the cross, his sacrifice, brings us back. That's awesome. Let me show you this other one here. It's Isaiah. Come all who are thirsty, come to the water. So this is an invitation. Hey, Jesus is letting us know, God is letting us know, this water is free. This water is free. I had to pay $20 to get in Genie Springs, so that wasn't free. We had to pay $20 to spend the night, and $18 or $15 if you just wanted to hang out there for the day. That wasn't free. We had to pay $15. This water, this one's free. There's no admission charge. All it is just accepting it and, loving God and believing in what he's done. So this one says, come all who are thirsty, and I'm going to give, I'll give you to drink. Come to the waters. Come. It's an invitation. This is what God wants us to do, is to come to him. The source of life. That's what there's songs that they're sung in church, and that's what that means, that God is our source of life. This is where we get our life from. This is where we get salvation and all of the, our strength and true love and peace and hope. He's our source. This is where we're getting it from. It's him. It's God. Now, we talked about that the enemy, he never wants us, the devil never wants us to live this life, right? He doesn't want that. He wants to, he at one point, he wanted to be God, and obviously that's what got him out of heaven, is because he wanted to take God's place. And so the only way really that he can get back at God is to try to take as many of us with him as possible to hell. And so he doesn't want us sipping from this water. He doesn't want us drinking from this spring. So he always, and every positive, there's always a negative, right? Like yin and yang, you heard of that? And so for this awesome water that is available, there's another one. There's another type of water that the world and the enemy always tries to offer us. And I mean, some of us are actually surprised how much we drink of this at times. This is his water. This is how it looks like. It's not like that Genie Springs water that was all like nice and clear and it smelled amazing, smelled awesome. It tasted great. I'm not dipping my head in that river and taking a big gulp of that, Like this, when water, like you can see how it's all like murky and gooky and nasty. Water gets like this, especially a river, when there's no more source coming in. Remember how I told you, like I was all lathering up in the, in the spring, and it's all like, ugh, it was gross. I definitely, we didn't go swimming in that spring again. I chose to skip that one. But that was okay because there was always water coming out, and so there was always that water flushing it out and dumping it into the river, which was okay. And then it filtered out, and it was nice. This water, when there's no source, when there's nothing being fed, and it's just stagnant like that, this is what happens to water when it stays still and it's not moving. It gets all nasty. If there's no way for it to get out, nothing's coming in, there's no way to get out, then whatever falls in it pools in it, and it stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. And then that's the type of water that the enemy wants us to sip on and try.